What if the pain you've endured is simply proof of the crown waiting for you? Discover how God's declaration over your life transforms trials into triumphs. Chosen ones, let's uncover 5 undeniable signs that prove God has set you apart as a chosen leader. If you've been feeling isolated, misunderstood, or like life's challenges are unrelenting, stay with me until the end. You're not alone. This is your confirmation. Like and comment 77 if you are ready to claim your destiny today. Resilience through trials is the first undeniable sign that you have been set apart by God for a greater purpose. Think about the moments in your life when it felt like everything was falling apart. The heartbreaks, the sleepless nights filled with questions, the times when the weight of your struggles felt like it would crush you. What you didn't realize then, what they didn't realize, is that those trials were not meant to destroy you. They were designed to strengthen you, to refine you, and to prepare you for the calling God placed on your life. The Bible reminds us in James 1 verses 2-3, "My brethren, count it all joy when ye fall into divers temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience." It's hard to see joy in the middle of a storm. When life feels like it's closing in on every side, joy seems like the last thing you could possibly find. But that's where God does his most powerful work. The fire you walked through was not sent to consume you. It was sent to refine you, like gold purified in a furnace. Every trial shaped your character, built your endurance, and prepared your heart to receive the blessings and responsibilities of a chosen king. Resilience doesn't mean you never fell down. It doesn't mean you didn't cry or feel overwhelmed. Resilience means that every time you stumbled, you found the strength to rise again. Think back to those moments when you wanted to give up, but somehow you pressed on. That wasn't coincidence or mere inner strength. That was God holding you up, reminding you that his power is made perfect in your weakness, just as Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9. The very fact that you're here today, stronger and wiser than before, is proof of God's hand on your life. They may have expected you to crumble, but God knew you would emerge victorious. Imagine a seed planted deep in the earth. At first, it's buried in darkness, surrounded by cold soil, and subjected to pressure from above. It seems like nothing good could come from such conditions. But it's precisely in that buried state, where no one else can see, that the seed begins to grow. The trials you've faced are the soil. The tears you've cried were the water. And God's light, even when it felt faint, was the warmth you needed to break through. Now, like that seed, you're rising, stronger and more resilient than anyone could have imagined. The challenges you endured weren't random. They were orchestrated by God to prepare you for something greater. Think about David before he became king. He faced rejection, isolation, and constant danger. For years, he lived on the run from Saul, hiding in caves and enduring the betrayal of those he trusted. To the outside world, David may have looked defeated, but God was building a warrior, a leader, a king after his own heart. In the same way, every hardship in your life has been shaping you into the person God intended you to be. Like David, you were chosen not in spite of your trials, but because of how you overcame them. Some of the most painful trials you faced were also the most personal. Maybe it was the betrayal of someone you trusted. Maybe it was losing someone you loved, or the sting of rejection from those who were supposed to support you. Those moments cut deep, and the enemy wanted you to believe they were the end. But what the enemy meant for evil, God used for good, just as he did for Joseph when his brothers sold him into slavery. Genesis 50 verse 20. Like Joseph, your trials have not only positioned you for greatness, but have also prepared you to bless others. Resilience through trials also means learning to trust God even when you can't see the way forward. When Job lost everything, his wealth, his children, his health, he still declared in Job 13 verse 15, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." That level of faith doesn't come from a life without struggles. It comes from walking through the fire and realizing that God's presence never left you. If you've ever found yourself in a place where all you had left was your faith, take heart. That was the foundation God was using to build something unshakable. Your trials have given you a perspective that others don't have. They've taught you empathy for those who are still struggling, wisdom for those seeking direction, and strength for those who feel weak. This resilience is not just for you, it's part of your purpose. As Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 1 verse 4, God comforts us in all our tribulations so that we can comfort others. Your story of perseverance will inspire and encourage those around you, showing them that they, too, can rise above their circumstances. This resilience also marks you as different. The world sees trials as something to avoid, but you've learned to see them as opportunities for growth. You've learned to see God's hand even in the darkest moments. While others may give up, you keep going. While others may focus on the pain, you focus on the purpose. This is the mindset of a chosen king, a leader who knows that every setback is a setup for something greater. They may have tried to break you. They may have doubted your ability to overcome. But your life is living proof that God's plans for you are greater than the plans of those who opposed you. Romans 8 verse 28 assures us that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. Your trials were not wasted. They were working for your good, shaping you into the person God called you to be. As you reflect on the trials you've faced, take a moment to recognize the strength God has given you. You are not the same person you were before. You are stronger, wiser, and more grounded in your faith. That strength is a testimony to God's faithfulness and a sign of the incredible purpose he has for your life. And this is just the beginning. Resilience through trials is the foundation, but the signs continue to build, each one pointing to the undeniable truth that you are chosen by God for something extraordinary. Keep watching, because the next sign will reveal how God is guiding your every step toward your destiny. Divine guidance and purpose is the second undeniable sign that God has chosen you for something greater. Have you ever experienced a moment when everything fell into place so perfectly that it felt beyond coincidence? Or perhaps you faced situations that seemed like detours or obstacles, only to later realize they were part of a larger plan. These moments, whether joyful or challenging, are not random. They are God's way of directing your steps, of weaving your life into a story far greater than you could imagine. Proverbs 3 verse 6 reminds us of this truth. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Think about the times when you didn't understand why something was happening. Maybe you lost an opportunity you desperately wanted, or a relationship you thought was permanent came to an end. In those moments, it may have felt like everything was falling apart. But now, as you look back, you can see how God was aligning events to guide you toward something better. That lost opportunity might have spared you from harm. That ended relationship might have freed you to discover your true purpose. God's guidance often works like a tapestry, where the individual threads, joyful and painful, come together to form a masterpiece. You may have felt moments of doubt, especially when others questioned your choices or criticized your journey. The world often fails to understand the hand of God at work in someone's life, and those around you may have tried to convince you that your dreams were impossible or your faith misplaced. Yet, over time, God opened doors that no one could shut. Isaiah 22 verse 22 speaks of this power, "And the key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulder. So he shall open, and none shall shut, and he shall shut, and none shall open." When others doubted you, God's timing silenced their disbelief. Every open door, every breakthrough was a testament to his divine purpose for you. Consider how God guided Moses, even when it seemed like the path made no sense. Raised as an Egyptian prince, Moses fled to the wilderness after committing murder, spending 40 years as a shepherd. To the outside world, it might have looked like Moses was forgotten, living in obscurity. But God was preparing him for his ultimate calling, to lead the Israelites out of slavery. Moses' time in the wilderness wasn't wasted. It was where God molded him into a leader. In the same way, every phase of your life, even those that seem disconnected or insignificant, is part of God's preparation for your destiny. You're not just wandering, you're being guided. Divine guidance often involves learning to trust God even when you don't have all the answers. It's about taking steps of faith, believing that God will reveal the next part of the journey when the time is right. Abraham is a powerful example of this trust. When God called him to leave his homeland and journey to an unknown place, Abraham obeyed without hesitation. Hebrews 11 verse 8 recounts, "By faith Abraham, When he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed. And he went out not knowing whither he went. Like Abraham, you may not see the full picture, but every step you take in faith brings you closer to the purpose God has for your life. Have you ever noticed how certain people come into your life at just the right time? Or how unexpected opportunities seem to appear when you need them most? These are not accidents, they are divine appointments. God orchestrates these moments to confirm that you are on the right path. Think of the story of Ruth, whose decision to stay with her mother-in-law Naomi after great personal loss led her to Boaz and ultimately placed her in the lineage of Christ. Ruth couldn't have foreseen the significance of her choices, but God's hand was guiding her every step. Divine guidance also teaches us that even the delays and disappointments in our lives serve a purpose. Waiting can feel like the hardest part, but it is often in the waiting that God refines us and prepares us for the next chapter. Joseph spent years in prison for a crime he didn't commit, yet his time there was essential to his development. When God finally elevated Joseph to a position of power in Egypt, he was ready to fulfill his purpose and save countless lives. If you're in a season of waiting, take heart. God is not delaying you out of neglect. He's positioning you for something greater. This guidance isn't just about the big, life-altering moments. It's also present in the small, everyday decisions. The Bible says in Psalm 119 verse 105, "Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path." A lamp doesn't illuminate the entire journey at once. It shows just enough light for the next step. God's guidance works in the same way. He may not reveal the entire plan to you right now, but He gives you enough direction to take the next step in faith. Trusting in His guidance means acknowledging that He sees the bigger picture, even when you cannot. Every moment of divine guidance is proof that your life has purpose. You are not an accident, nor are the events of your life random. Ephesians 2 verse 10 affirms this. "For we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, which God hath before ordained that we should walk in them." God has been working behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail to align you with the purpose for which He created you. You are not here by chance. You are part of His grand design. When you embrace God's guidance, you also begin to understand the role you play in His greater plan. Your life is not just about your own goals or achievements. It's about how your journey fits into God's kingdom. He is using your story to inspire others, to bring light to those who are struggling, and to advance His purposes in ways you may not even realize. Your obedience and trust in His guidance have a ripple effect, touching lives and planting seeds of faith in those around you. As you reflect on the moments of divine guidance in your life, recognize that they are not just coincidences. They are signs that God is actively working in your life, leading you toward the purpose He has set before you. Take comfort in knowing that you are not walking this path alone. God is with you, guiding you, and ensuring that every step you take is part of His perfect plan. We've only scratched the surface. The next signs will reveal even more about your unique calling, and the final sign ties everything together in a powerful way. You don't want to miss it. Activate notifications so you never miss this kind of message. The third sign is empathy and the ability to uplift others. This is not just a personality trait or a product of your experiences. It's a divine gift, a sacred responsibility entrusted to you by God. The way you can feel the pain of others, step into their struggles, and offer them hope is nothing short of extraordinary. It's as though God has placed a piece of His heart within you, enabling you to see beyond the surface and reach people where they need it most. As 2 Corinthians 1 verse 4 reminds us, "Who comforteth us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble, by the comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of God." Your ability to extend this comfort is not by accident. It's a sign of your calling. Think about the times in your life when you've seen someone hurting. Perhaps it was a friend going through a heartbreak, a stranger whose pain was written on their face, or even a family member silently carrying burdens they were too afraid to voice. You didn't need them to explain, you just knew. You could feel their heaviness as if it were your own. This isn't weakness. It's God working through you. He has given you the gift of empathy so that you can stand in the gap for others, offering not just words of comfort but also a sense of understanding that many people never experience. Empathy, as you've likely discovered, can be both a blessing and a burden. There are moments when the weight of others' struggles feels overwhelming, and you might wonder why you've been given such a sensitive heart. But consider this: Jesus himself was deeply empathetic. In John 11 verse 35, the shortest verse in the Bible, it says, Jesus wept. He wept because he felt the sorrow of Mary and Martha as they mourned their brother Lazarus. Though he knew he would raise Lazarus from the dead, he allowed himself to enter into their pain. Your empathy mirrors this divine characteristic. It's a reflection of God's heart for his people. There's a beauty in being able to uplift others because it shows them that they are not alone. In a world that often feels cold and isolating, your presence becomes a light in the darkness. Think of the times when someone confided in you, and your words of encouragement helped them to see their own strength. Those moments were not insignificant. They were divine appointments. God placed you in their lives at just the right time to be his instrument of hope. Like a bridge over troubled waters, you help people cross from despair to a place of healing and restoration. Yet, empathy is not always easy. There may have been times when your kindness was taken for granted, or your efforts to help were met with rejection. You may have even questioned whether it's worth continuing to pour into others when you feel drained or unappreciated. But remember, your calling is not about receiving recognition from others. It's about being faithful to what God has placed within you. Galatians 6 verse 9 encourages us with this truth, and let us not be weary in well-doing. For in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. Your empathy is planting seeds, even when you cannot immediately see the fruit. One of the most profound aspects of empathy is how it connects to your own journey. The trials you've faced, the tears you've shed, and the heartbreaks you've endured have given you a deep well of compassion to draw from. When you comfort others, you're not speaking from a place of theory or distance. You're speaking from experience. You understand what it means to hurt, to question, to feel lost. And because of that, your encouragement carries weight. It's authentic. It resonates. Your pain has become a tool in God's hands, repurposed to bring healing to others. Think of Joseph in the Bible. After enduring betrayal by his brothers, slavery, and imprisonment, he rose to a position of power in Egypt. When his brothers came to him during a famine, he could have chosen bitterness or revenge. Instead, he chose empathy and forgiveness, saying in Genesis 50 verse 20, "But as for you, ye thought evil against me. But God meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive." In the same way, God is using your pain not only for your growth, but also to bless others. Your empathy is a testament to his ability to redeem even the darkest moments of your life. This divine gift doesn't just stop at comforting individuals. It creates a ripple effect. When you uplift someone, you inspire them to do the same for others. Your kindness multiplies, reaching people you may never even meet. It's like a single flame that lights countless candles, spreading warmth and illumination far beyond its origin. This is part of your greater purpose, a role in God's kingdom that goes beyond what you can see. As Matthew 5 verse 16 says, "Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works, and glorify your Father which is in heaven." Your compassion also teaches others about their own worth and potential. In a society that often measures value by accomplishments or appearances, your empathy speaks a different message: that every person is deeply loved by God, regardless of their circumstances. When you show people their value, you're not just uplifting them temporarily, you're helping them to see themselves through God's eyes. You're reminding them that they are fearfully and wonderfully made. As Psalm 139 verse 14 declares, the ability to uplift others is a calling that aligns with the heart of Christ. When Jesus walked the earth, he spent his time with the broken, the outcast, and the weary. He didn't shy away from their pain. He entered into it, offering healing and hope. By living out your empathy, you are continuing his work, bringing his love to a world in desperate need of it. This is not a small thing, it's a sacred mission. As you embrace this gift, remember that you don't have to do it in your own strength. God equips those he calls. When you feel weary, turn to him for renewal. Isaiah 40 verses 29 to 31 offers this promise. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increaseth strength. Even the youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Your empathy is not just a gift, it's a sign. It's evidence of God's calling on your life and a reminder that He is working through you to accomplish something far greater than you can imagine. Embrace it even when it feels heavy. Trust that every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, and every tear shed for another is part of a larger plan. The fourth sign is strength in solitude and the gift of inner peace. In a world that seems to thrive on constant noise and busyness, you've discovered something rare and precious: the ability to find clarity in the quiet. This isn't about isolation or loneliness. It's about a sacred connection with God that can only be found when the distractions of the world are set aside. In the stillness, where so many feel discomfort or emptiness, you've found a source of unshakable strength. Isaiah 26 verse 3 captures this beautifully. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Think of the storms that have surrounded your life, the chaos, the demands, the voices of others pulling you in countless directions. In the midst of it all, you've learned to retreat into solitude, not as an escape, but as a place of renewal. It's in those quiet moments that you've felt God's presence most profoundly. The world may not understand this strength. People often equate stillness with inactivity, but you know the truth. The stillness is where God speaks, where He pours wisdom and peace into your spirit, equipping you for the journey ahead. Consider Jesus, who often withdrew to solitary places to pray, even in the busiest seasons of His ministry. In Luke 5 verse 16, it says, "And He withdrew Himself into the wilderness, and prayed." Even the Son of God, with multitudes following Him and demands pressing on every side, knew the value of solitude. It wasn't weakness that brought Him to those quiet places. It was strength. It was the recognition that His connection to the Father was the source of everything He did. In the same way, your ability to find strength in solitude is a reflection of your connection to God. Finding peace in solitude isn't easy, especially in a culture that glorifies busyness and noise. Many people fear being alone because it forces them to confront their thoughts, their fears, and the deepest parts of their hearts. But you've learned that solitude isn't about being alone. It's about being alone with God. It's about creating a space where His voice can rise above the clamor of the world. When Elijah fled to the wilderness in 1 Kings 19, God didn't speak to him in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire. Instead, He spoke in a still small voice. That same voice whispers to you in your moments of quiet, bringing peace that surpasses all understanding. This inner peace is more than just the absence of conflict. It's the presence of God's assurance, even in the midst of uncertainty. Think of a river flowing gently through a rocky canyon. The rocks don't stop the river's flow. Instead, they shape its path, adding depth and character. Your life may have been filled with obstacles and challenges, but they haven't stopped your peace. Instead, they've deepened it, teaching you to rely on God's promises rather than the fleeting stability of circumstances. Philippians 4 verse 7 reminds us, "And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus." Your strength in solitude and inner peace isn't just for your benefit. It's a gift to those around you. People notice your calmness, your ability to remain steady when others are overwhelmed. In a stormy world, you become a lighthouse, guiding others towards safety and stillness. It's not that you're immune to challenges, but your response to them reflects a deeper trust in God. When someone sees you facing difficulties with grace, it inspires them to seek the same peace in their own lives. Your calmness becomes a testimony, a reminder that God's peace is available to all who trust in Him. Yet, this strength doesn't come without its challenges. There may have been times when others misunderstood your solitude, mistaking it for indifference or detachment. You may have felt the pressure to always be present, to constantly meet the expectations of others. But you've learned that your time with God is not a luxury. It's a necessity, like a tree whose roots go deep into the earth. Your stillness allows you to draw strength and nourishment that sustains you in every season. The beauty of inner peace is that it transforms not only your relationship with God, but also your relationship with yourself. In the quiet, you've faced your doubts, your fears, and your insecurities. And in those moments, God has reminded you of who you are in Him. You've learned to see yourself through His eyes, to rest in the knowledge that you are loved, chosen, and called. This self-awareness doesn't breed pride. It brings humility, gratitude, and a renewed sense of purpose. Your strength in solitude also prepares you for the battles ahead. David, before he faced Goliath, spent years tending sheep in the solitude of the fields. It was there that he learned to trust God, to hear His voice, and to develop the skills that would one day make him a king. Your time in the quiet isn't wasted. It's where God is equipping you for what's to come. The strength you've found in stillness will be the foundation for the victories God has planned for you. This sign, this strength in solitude and inner peace, is a reflection of God's presence in your life. It's a reminder that He is with you, not just in the mountaintop moments, but in the valleys and the wilderness. It's a gift that sets you apart, showing the world that true peace isn't found in external circumstances, but in a relationship with the One who controls them. As Psalm 46 verse 10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." As you embrace this sign, remember that it's not about perfection. It's about trust. It's about choosing to rest in God's promises, even when the world around you feels unstable. Your peace isn't a passive state. It's an active choice to keep your mind and heart focused on Him. And as you continue to walk in this strength, you'll find that it not only sustains you, but also inspires others to seek the same connection with God. Now we're down to the most powerful and undeniable sign. This one reveals the ultimate test God uses to confirm His chosen leaders. Are you ready? Lean in, because this could change everything. The final sign is your unshakable commitment to growth and exploration. This isn't just a desire for improvement or a fleeting interest in self-development. It's a deep, God-given drive to seek wisdom, truth, and transformation. It's a call that sets you apart, a pull toward something greater, something eternal. Philippians 3 verse 14 captures this beautifully. "I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus." This journey isn't about ambition for ambition's sake. It's about stepping into the purpose for which you were created. Think about the moments when others were content to stay where they were, but something inside you wouldn't let you settle. That restlessness, that hunger to grow and evolve, is not by accident. It's God stirring your spirit, pushing you forward, even when the path is uncertain. While the world may see comfort as the ultimate goal, you've realized that true fulfillment comes from pursuing the potential God has placed within you. Your journey is not just about achieving milestones. It's about becoming the person God intended you to be. There have likely been times when your commitment to growth set you apart in ways that felt uncomfortable. Perhaps others laughed at your dreams or questioned why you couldn't just be satisfied. They may have misunderstood your willingness to take risks or your desire to explore uncharted territory. But what they couldn't see is that God was using every step, every misstep, and every leap of faith to sharpen you for something greater. Like David, who spent years in the wilderness learning to fight lions and bears, your process of growth is preparing you for battles and victories that others can't yet comprehend. This commitment to growth requires courage, because growth often means stepping out of your comfort zone and into the unknown. Abraham understood this when God called him to leave everything familiar and journey to a land he had never seen. Hebrews 11 verse 8 says, "By faith Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed. And he went out not knowing whither he went." Like Abraham, you may not always know where your path is leading, but your faith drives you forward, trusting that God's promises are worth the journey. Growth is not always glamorous. It often involves confronting parts of yourself that you'd rather ignore, letting go of things that no longer serve your purpose, and embracing the discomfort of change. It's a process of refinement, much like a diamond being shaped under pressure. The trials and challenges you faced weren't there to discourage you. They were there to prepare you. James 1 verse 4 reminds us, "But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing." Your willingness to endure this process, to embrace growth even when it's difficult, is a testament to your faith and determination. This commitment to exploration goes beyond personal growth. It's about seeking the wisdom and truth of God. You've likely found yourself drawn to Scripture, to prayer, to moments of reflection where God reveals more of His character and His plan for your life. And here's the test. Will you answer the call and fully step into the role God has declared for you? Leave the word "ready" in the comments if you are prepared to rise. You've seen the signs. God has declared you the chosen king, and it's time to step into your purpose with confidence and faith. Comment which sign resonated with you the most, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Hit the notification bell so you never miss another confirmation from God. God chose you. Now it's time to claim your crown